So we're doing this in my backyard again. My pups decided that they wanted to come outside and play after it stormed. It's Sunday and I am just doing like meal prep and house stuff. And then I realized that I need to give you guys the next steps of creating this defect form. So last time we talked about requirements and kind of brainstorming some of those ideas of what you want your form to look like. You can keep it very generic, or you can get more in depth. To keep this simple, we're going to be going with Google Docs. You can also use a different form platform. It's going to be pretty much the same setup, a little bit different, but we'll go for Google Docs just to keep it simplistic. So you're going to outline what you want for your document. You're going to want to have maybe the build number that the defect was created in. You're going to want the name of the person that's submitting the form, and then also the description. Now, Google Doc doesn't have a very seamless or user-friendly for just dropping photos in. So I'm not actually going to be using or be adding photos. I think a lot of times when I have when when defects are reported, it's hardly that we get any actual photos. You can add a media drop. So essentially what that will do is you can create, the user can upload their images to like Google Drive or Dropbox and then provide the link. Again, it's kind of cumbersome. We'll just show this example just so that you guys can kind of get the setup. And again, I'm not going to be attaching any photos into my form. I'm going to keep it very basic: name, date, and description of the defect and what the actual result should be. So I'll show you guys that here in just a second. Again, each Monday I'm dropping a small portion of an exercise leading up to the full animation. Last week we did an introduction. This week we're just creating the document, and then next week we will go ahead and I'll show you Notion and then how to connect those. So more to come. Again, I'll show you the document here in just a second. Okay, I'm back in the house just to kind of show you guys what this form should look like, or I guess not what this form should look like, but basically how you create a form. So my suggestion is that if you're creating this for your business, or if you're creating this for a corporation, keep this form within a shared drive that, I mean, you can restrict who has access to it, but keep it within a shared drive in case for whatever reason you guys need to have access to it later, or another individual needs to have access to it, and you don't need to worry about having to share it with them later. It's all going to be in a centralized shared drive so that everybody that needs access to it can have access to it, and you don't necessarily have to worry about being the owner of it. So I'm going to go ahead and again, we're keeping this very low key. I'm not doing all the editing and showing my screen and stuff. I'm just going to show you the screen from my mobile, and we're going to keep it really simple. Okay, I went ahead and set up the form. So I'm, again, keeping it really simple. We're not going to do any imaging or anything like that. I did name, defect title, defect description, and then I'm going to do these steps to generate the defect. I haven't published it yet, but I do want to kind of show you guys kind of another thing that you need to take into consideration. So we are going to be tying this to your Google Sheet. So go into your responses, and then here, link to sheet, go ahead and click that and then create it. And what that will do is that will generate the Google Sheet that you will need. So basically what this will do is it'll log the responses based off of what the user puts in. This is important because these columns need to be matching the same columns in your Notion database that we're going to use for creating that automation through, which we will show in the next video. So that's all we're going to show in this video. We'll get more into the automation setup next week. I'll show you how to set up Notion, and then if there's enough time, we may start building out the automation portion of this. All right, thanks so much. Talk to you guys later. So I'm a bad pet mom. They ran in a bunch of mud, and I'm letting them dry off before we let them in. They don't like me right now. But anyway, I forgot, or well, I didn't forget. In the beginning of this video, I had said Google Doc. I meant Google Form. So just a quick recap. You're gonna be using Google Form, creating the input fields that you want the defect form to collect, and then you're going to go into responses and then create a Google sheet that will link to it, and obviously you publish it. And then next week we'll get into, or the next video we'll get into creating Notion. And again, if there's enough time, we'll start the automation. So look at this girl. Look at that face. Oh, my windows are very dirty. I gotta clean. Woo. But anyway, aren't they cute? They don't like me right now. All right, talk to you guys later. Bye.